Welcome to the Series Sweep podcast, where I am breaking down each and every single Dodgers series for the 2020 season. You can find me on Twitter at EEULAU. You can find me under Instagram if you want to look at photos of my mundane life. You can do that as well. Please follow us on YouTube, the Series Sweep channel. You can subscribe, rate, review, leave comments, let us know how we're doing. The Royal We, it's really just me here in my bedroom, but that's a conversation for a different day. The Dodgers win 3 of 4 against the Seattle Mariners in the 2 games in LA, 2 games in Seattle series. I decided not to do 2 separate podcasts, but just do one to wrap it up. They win the first 2, drop the third, go on and win today on the strength of Clayton Kershaw, who passed Don Drysdale today for second most strikeouts ever as a Los Angeles Dodger, behind another Hall of Famer, and whose gentleman has his number retired as well, in Don Sutton. There you have your scores. Game 1, 11-9. Just an absolute basher of a game. A ton of runs. The Dodgers scored 5 runs in 2 different innings. They had the bases loaded 3 times, up and down. And of course, when a game's 11-9, it's more than likely that the starters got roughed up. That was Ross Stripling for the Dodgers, who gave up 3 bombs. He looked horrible, unfortunately. Another bad start. I think that Padres start was pretty rough. That last inning, I know we've talked about that a few times. On top of this game as well, he did not look good, did not look crisp. It's going to happen, but I don't know how much longer and how much leash they're going to give him with, especially with Alex Wood probably coming back soon, which we will get into when we get to our injuries. 2-1, Game 2, otherwise known as the Austin Barnes game. Austin Barnes stealing second to set up the game-winning RBI for Corey Seager. That was a Tony Gonsolin start. My boy, Tony Gonsolin. A fantastic start. Game 3, a loss, 6-4. That was yesterday. Julio Urias, once again, very up and down. No control. And you want to talk about leashes. I think the leash was too short. Let the kid pitch, Dave. Don't just pull him. I know he hasn't finished 2 innings yet. I know he's close to 60 pitches. Let the kid pitch. He's never going to learn. He's never going to get better if you don't let him fail as a starter. Stop babying him. This whole season was about not babying him. Game 4, we just talked about it. Clayton Kershaw throwing a gem, 11 strikeouts, 19 swings and misses. Absolutely silenced the Mariners lineup, which was one of the worst in the majors at producing runs. Didn't look like it after that first game, but Clayton Kershaw came to town, sealed it up. They win 3 out of 4. The series score 23-17, not that big of a margin. The Dodgers don't think they played their best in this series. I think they got some lucky breaks. I think Austin Barnes made a heads-up play in Game 2. And I think Dennis Santana, who just gave up the gut-wrenching 3-run bomb yesterday to Nola. I think a lot of times we expect players to always perform their best, or we hold this image of them of their best performance and somehow think that it's going to happen when they're sometimes marginal players. And I think Santana has a spot in this bullpen. I think he could be a guy who could contribute to this team. Maybe marginal is too strong of a phrase, but the Dennis Santana from the Houston Astros, that's not the guy we're going to get night in, night out. I know the bullpen has been fantastic. I think there's a lot of innings on that bullpen, or I know there's a lot of innings, second most in the National League in innings. The Pedro Baez injury, maybe that has something to do with that. Expanded rosters, I know, but Dave has had some really short leashes on guys, and that has really taxed him. But yeah, Santana gives up that backbreaker in Game 3 yesterday. He goes walk, single, home run, walk, single. That is not a great way to handle your first 5 batters. It's just one game. It's against the Mariners. The Dodgers are in a good spot so far with their record. Not flying off the handle about it. Just something to keep track of. Another thing that happened in Game 3, the Dodgers hit 3 solo shots. And you're just thinking to yourself, oh, they're going to win. They're hitting solo shots. This is what the Dodgers do. We're just going to home run our way to a victory. We seem to lose a lot of games when we hit home runs. I know the record, if we hit more than 1 home run, is pretty favorable, and I get that. I just think we developed some bad habits at the plate, hacking away going for those home runs. I realize it's what you have to do to be successful as a team in this era. I think there's been a great amount of teams like the Houston Astros and the Yankees and the Red Sox when they were good, which seems like a lifetime ago now. They were hitting a lot of home runs, and I know it's something we need to do. I'm not saying we should abandon it. I'm just saying there are games. It seems like we just burn through ABs just trying to crush balls into the stands. And there's going to be a time and a place in the playoffs where that really hurts us. So please stop just swinging for home runs. It's not going to win you the game. Ergo, game 3. The 259 average, it doesn't tell the whole picture. You score 11 runs in one game, you score 2 the next night. They absolutely struggled with that kid for the Mariners, Gonsolin. Average was decent. The ERA was high. Definitely high against a Mariners team that I do not think is very good. Everyone knows they're not very good. They're in the middle of a rebuild. They do have that kid Kyle Lewis, who looks really, really good. He looks like they have something. But when you have a team that's rolling out Taijuan Walker, I know he pitched well against us, but who's still rolling out Taijuan Walker as a starter on their team, you should have a better margin than run differential than 6 for the series, and you should not be giving up 4.63 on the ERA. The bullpen got tagged a lot in this series, a 4.16 ERA. It's going to all average out, right? They were just pitching out of their minds for a long time for the most of the season. Once again, not worried. I don't think this bullpen is excellent. I don't think this bullpen is a 4.16 ERA. It's been a strength, and that's been a nice surprise. I think it's always been a weakness for us the last few years. The starting pitching's always been there. The lineup depth has always been there. The ability to hit the ball the other way. The defense has been good. I think all those things have been positives for the Dodgers for a long time. But I think a lot of the reason we've had success this year is because that bullpen has been really, really good. A lot of contributors up and down. Not going to list them all off. You know who they are. But Kenley Jansen, Blake Trinan, even though I'm not the biggest believer in Blake Trinan, but you got Bruce Gratterall. Adam Kolarek has pitched really well. He also had a game where he didn't get tagged for any earned runs because of inherited runners. It's a story for a different day, like the other thing. So there's just a book of things that we're just gonna have to get to. I'll just do one podcast at the end every time I say we'll get to that later. It'll be an entire podcast of just non sequitur things that don't really connect to each other. But I said I get to them later, and I want to be a man on my word. 259 average, like we said, doesn't tell the whole story. A lot of hacking, a lot of outs, and we'll get to our stats of the series. The Dodgers outscored Seattle 8-2 in the final 3 innings, cumulative 8-2 over the 4 games. It's a great way to win 3 out of 4. It's a great way to dominate a weaker team, and that's what you need to do. The chemistry changing moment of the series brought to you by absolutely no one, because no one would pay money right now for this podcast, but we'll get there one day. 4 runs in the third today to back Clayton Kershaw. And the reason I think that's the chemistry changing moment of the series, that was the Kershaw's dealing. We got 4 runs. Signed, sealed. I guess it would be signed, sealed, delivered. We were going to win this series. Clayton Kershaw was not going to lose to the Mariners. I know he's giving up another home run, so he's given up 5 so far this year. It's kind of scary. It's also scary he's giving up to left-handed pitching. But I think that was the moment when you knew this Dodgers team was going to wrap up the series pretty early on here this afternoon. The Steve Pearce Award, the guy who played much better than the name on the back of the jersey and outplayed his current player profile, would be Marco Gonzalez. Struck out 9 Dodgers in that 2-1 victory. The Austin Barnes game. A game he probably should have won. A game I'm sure as a pitcher he's pissed that he lost. Should have won that. He was dealing. Sorry, kid. We'll see you next time. But could have a future. He's a little older, 28, 29 years old, but he threw the ball well against a good lineup. Maybe it's an outlier, but I'll keep an eye on him, as well as our boy Kyle Lewis. The Steve Pearce Award, Marco Gonzalez, chemistry changing moment of the series, 4 runs in the third. Stat of the series, they outscored Seattle 8-2 in innings 7 through 9 during the series. Now to get back to Ross Stripling's god-awful start to lead off this series, makes you question, is Ross Stripling going to be in this rotation once Alex Wood gets healthy? And I believe that this Sunday start against Senzatella against the Rockies is going to be a pretty serious breaking is going to be a serious indicator for if Alex Wood is going to grab his spot or not. And they've essentially used the 6-man rotation with Tony Gonsolin, who, if I didn't mention, is awesome. Only 2 hits, no earned runs this series. Anyway, if they use Tony Gonsolin, use a 6-game series, 6-man rotation to give everyone some extra rest, there's a chance that Stripling's the odd man out when Wood comes back. I don't love it. I would rather have Stripling than Alex Wood. I think Stripling has a lot more confidence. I like Stripling's ceiling a little more, and Alex Wood was brutal in that Giants game. Maybe it was the shoulder injury holding him back. I don't know. Long and short of it is Stripling is pretty much pitching for his starter spot, in my opinion, on Sunday. I don't feel that is grandiose. I don't feel that is over the top. I don't feel I'm embellishing. I think with how short this season is, you got to perform, and especially when you have a lot of mouths to feed on the starting rotation all of a sudden, with Gonsolin performing really well. Maybe he slides in the bullpen, but and it's been something weird all season with the Dodgers and the way they plugged in Alex Wood, because it seems like essentially they guaranteed him a spot if he signed with us. I guess it is what it is, but the Stripling start did produce one of my least favorite Dave Roberts-isms, and that is when he says, "I thought the ball was coming out of his hand pretty good." Well, Dave, if the ball was coming out of his hand well or good or whatever modifier within the 4 modifiers you use over and over and over again, or adjectives, that you use over and over again during your press conferences when you say absolutely nothing, the ball wasn't coming out of his hand well because he got absolutely torched for 3 home runs against a team that is in the bottom third in the majority of the offensive categories. The ball is not coming out of your hand well if you're pitching like that. So great quote, Dave. Feeling super confident if I'm Ross Stripling after hearing that. Stripling had a similar comment. He left too many hittable pitches in the zone. I think so. They had a lot of hits. There's a lot of pitches in the zone. Those equaled hits. All makes sense. It's all adding up. And now we have to get to Cody Bellinger. Still struggling. He was 3 for 13 in this series, a .230 average, which is better than what he's hitting right now. He's barely replacement level. Not saying send him down, that'd be ridiculous. Send him down the order one more spot. Maybe not opposed. He's heating up a little bit. But what is really the cause for Cody Bellinger in this slow start? He is swinging at 51.6% of breaking balls. He has 2 hits on breaking balls this season. His percentage of breaking balls thrown by pitchers is above 30% for August. This is the exact reason he struggled in the 2017 World Series against the Houston Astros. This is the exact reason he struggled the following year. Breaking balls on the inner part of the plate, closer to the batter, closer to his hands, breaking towards his back foot, and with that big old chop swing, there's a fat hole there sometimes. And the plate coverage is not very good. Some interesting stats. He's also swinging at 36% of his first pitches because he knows a lot of breaking balls are coming, so if he can jump all over a first pitch fastball, he's all for it. The BABIP, the batted balls in play, is insanely low. I believe it's around .18 or .180. That should go up. That just means he's been really unlucky with balls hit. His contact rate in balls in the zone where he's swinging is solid. It's good, but the exit velocity is solid. He's gotten unlucky. He's also just not hitting breaking stuff in this league now. When it's a tough marriage when it's the lowest percentage of fastballs ever thrown in a major league series since it began pitch tracking, and it's the highest percentage of off speed and breaking balls being thrown. It's a tough era to beat Cody Bellinger. We know what he can do. Last year was an incredible performance. MVP, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, All-Star, everything. The works. The loaded baked potato. He had bacon, he had cheddar, he had green onions, he had the fancy little spoon for the butter, he had the tiny small fork for the green onions. He had everything going last year. And this is just a bump in the road. He's had some home runs lately. He had some against two in this series. Had that one against the Angels. I think he's starting to heat up. I don't think he's going to hit below 200. I just think he's going to continue to see a lot of breaking stuff. And if he doesn't make that adjustment, and baseball is a game of adjustments, he's going to continue to struggle this year. Don't think he's a 350 hitter. Don't think he's a 180 hitter. I think he's a 260, 270 guy. I'm going to say that every podcast because it's what I believe. I think expectations are really high for him, as they should be for what he did last year. But let's stop pretending that we think he's going to hit 330 for the rest of his career. That is just ridiculous. Speaking of hitting, another great quote from Joe Davis, JD, as he's known. Teams that put the ball into play win. The teams with the highest contact rates are the ones that win. Yeah, that adds up. I can follow that. Thank you, Joe. I think you do a really good job, but I think that quote was pretty silly to say. But hey, it is what it is. To get through our... Oh, God, I almost forgot this. The game one, obviously Kyle Seager and Corey Seager, they're brothers, hence the same last name. A lot of pub, kind of cool. It is kind of cool. However, I would like to never, ever, ever see a in-game Zoom call ever again during a live sporting event. Don't want to see it. Don't want to see the split screen. Don't want to see the picture-in-picture. I don't even like doing Zoom calls for work. I like doing them with my family, but don't want to see two people that probably don't want to be on the Zoom call interrupting the game that I'm trying to watch. And I wouldn't expect... I'm not zooming myself into the Seagers' dinner and ruining their dinner, so don't ruin my game. Sorry, I don't want to see it. Start out with the Chapman, the awkward Oakland A's third baseman. He got interviewed during a Dodgers game during opening week. That made no sense. And just stop. Stop with the Zoom calls in game. It's awkward. I don't like it. The flow's horrible. It's like that jackass who was in the marketing department who realized you could do a picture-in-picture commercial during the replays and reviews. Mostly of NFL games, happens in baseball too. And he's like, guys, you know what we could do? We could take Zoom calls, because everyone's using Zoom now, and put it in the game next to the actual game. It's like, no, I want to watch the game that I wanted to watch. If I wanted to watch a Zoom Seager family phone call, I would go on YouTube and type in Seager Zoom family phone call Kyle Corey and go from there. Don't want to see it. Please be done with it. I hope you're done with it. I really do. Let's get to the injury list. Alex Wood, as we mentioned, throwing another sim game. Edwin Rios on the 10-day IL with a hamstring injury. Pedro Baez added to the IL today. Josh Spores brought up. Don't know if Josh Spores has ever pitched in his life. He just seems to be the guy who gets optioned 34 times a season to the Major League roster. So welcome back, Josh. I'm sure he'll be sent right back down in a couple of days. Will Smith still out with that neck injury. Joe Kelly out with the shoulder injury still, and once he is activated, he'll have to serve that 5-game suspension. I'm sure he appealed the rule that you have to serve your suspension once you're active. Didn't really happen for him. Coming into the weekend, the first set of games against the former number one in the NL West, the Colorado Rockies. Friday, you have John Gray versus Walker Buehler. Saturday, you have Kyle Freeland and Dustin May, which of those three matchups is probably the juiciest. Both young kids, good pitchers. Freeland had a top 5 or top 6 Cy Young finish in his best year, and then had an awful year the year after. It's Coors Field. What are you going to do? And then Senzatella, which is just a great last name to say. I think I spelled it right. Versus Ross Stripling pitching for his spot in the starting rotation. Friday, Saturday, it's a 6:40 first pitch tomorrow, a 6:10 on Saturday, and as always, unless they're on Sunday Night Baseball, you got the midday matinee. I guess technically matinees have to be on it too. Should look that up. Anyway, 1:10 on Sunday, Senzatella and Stripling. 1:10 on Sunday, Senzatella, Stripling. Say that 10 times fast. I'm not going to. The Dodgers 19-8, 4.5 up on San Diego. Arizona and the Rockies both back 5 games. And something I failed to miss before we wrap up here. Keibert Ruiz, another single, had a really nice throwdown to third base to pick somebody off. He looks good. He looks comfortable. I'd be nervous if I was Will Smith, especially now that Austin Barnes is red hot. But it's nice to have 2.5 catchers that would start for most teams in the MLB right now. Love the Clayton Kershaw outing. It was fantastic. Kenley Jansen looked pretty good again. The bullpen guys, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. It's just one of those series. But they're coming down the pipe here. Up 19-8, up 4.5. Your Los Angeles Dodgers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, the series Sweep. You can find me at EEULAU on Twitter. Give me a follow so I can maybe one day get above 50. It's kind of the dream. and after that it'll be 60. You can also follow on Spotify if you're more of a podcast guy and you don't want to see this mug, which can't say I blame you. You can follow on Spotify and SoundCloud. Thank you for listening. Go Dodgers. We'll talk soon.